All right, Derek Piper, Jeremy Werner. Let's talk some Illini hoops. They take care of business, Derek. 74-57 win over Colgate. You and I have covered this long enough to know that finals week sometimes can get a little interesting, especially when you've played some big opponents. You get a week off, you get a mid-major in here. Well, Illinois, I thought they were mature. Looked like they had a bunch of fifth and sixth year guys out there, and they find a way to put the foot to the metal, pedal to the metal right away, I should say, and go up 14-0. Never really in doubt. There was some late lapses there, Derek, but that was a nice response for Illinois. I think Brad Underwood had his team prepared, and it looked like an older team.
Yeah, no doubt. To go up 14-0, to throw those first couple of punches, Terrence Shannon igniting that early, that shows leadership, that shows assertiveness. We talked about that all offseason, and really, I mean, he's been as good as you can imagine or would have hoped going into this year. So his impact, being able to take advantage of that mismatch early, gets the switch and pops that early three, and that just ignited a good momentum offensively. Ty did some really good things, passing and facilitating, even being Illinois' point guard. We haven't seen him be in that position to have a lot run through him. I thought he was really able to set some guys up early in that game, and that stretch really was a big difference maker, setting the tone and making Colgate chase the rest of the way. And for Terrence to do what he did defensively, 5 blocks, and be a big part of Braden Smith, who's their leading scorer, being held down and only have 2 points on the game. And I just liked Illinois' approach. I like the fact that they took Colgate very seriously. Mm-hmm. I mean, Brad talked him up all week, which was good. They didn't get surprised by some quality mid-major team coming into their building. And last year it's easy to just pull up that one. I mean, there have been probably a number in the past where you go through a finals week. It's kind of mentally taxing, as Brad talks about after this one, to get out of your routines. But Alabama and A&M last year, you're like up 1 on a Ken Pom 330 team with like 10 minutes to go. And yes, Colgate did make it a little interesting, but too little too late for them. And Illinois, even though offensively things weren't all that pretty in the second half, they rebounded well enough to be in control. They had a number of guys step up. Quincy Guerrier in the second half was really good. Coleman had his moments offensively. Marcus Damask in closing time, getting to that booty ball. So it was just a balanced, well-rounded performance, and one that anytime you can take care of business against a team that's probably going to be in the NCAA tournament for the 4th straight year, like that's what a quality team and a mature team definitely does.
I'm thinking back like a month ago, they had these 3 lower level opponents and they kind of didn't show up in the first half, Derek. That might have been more of a team just figuring out each other's roles, figuring out each other, how to play when the lights are on. Because we were talking after Eastern Illinois, Oakland, Valpo, they were trailing in all those games at points, right? Marquette, they came out and played well. Kansas, they came out and played well. But really since then, the last month, this team, I don't have to worry about whether they're going to show up or not, or if they're going to bring it, be prepared. And listen, that should be expected in Brad Underwood's program. But when you have turnover, when you had issues like last year, to come out and spank Rutgers, to come out and play like you did against Florida Atlantic and Tennessee, where you gave yourself a chance to win, and then to do this with Colgate, I think it's business-like, and I've never questioned this team, especially over the last month, about their preparedness, their intensity, their physicality. They're usually pretty locked into the scouting report. It kind of failed them late in this game. Their defense kind of slipped, but that's got to be really reassuring to Brad Underwood after the ups and downs of last year.
Yeah, definitely a breath of fresh air after last year. Yeah, when you didn't know which Illinois team was going to show up, and they got off to so many slow starts. I mean, it was a trend there. I had done it. I think maybe it was after the Oakland game or the Valpo game. I can't remember which one. That Illinois had gone like 10 straight games without having a lead after the first media timeout, and now that goes back to last year where they weren't in positions early where they were starting fast. So now they seem to have cleaned that up to come out with urgency. I mean, the Valpo game, they trailed at halftime, and Eastern wasn't very impressive early. So I do think now that they are more in rhythm offensively. It seems like their identity is more established. They know the spots they want to get to. They're getting Marcus in those mid-post matchups. And really that's kind of the key word for Illinois offensively is matchups, hunting those out, trying to find weak links, trying to find size advantages for themselves. So I think that's been a good thing as they progress forward, and it does allow you to be more steady at that end. And their defense is very good. Like, it's a very good defense. And it's one that when they're rebounding, especially not giving up those second chance opportunities, they obviously got hurt by that against Tennessee a little bit. So, they did a good job of that, of being able to lock in, and, Ty goes to the glass, Quincy goes to the glass. And it's a maturity about this team, and it's just a steadiness. We expected an older team to be more steady, with some more solidified leaders like Terrence being in that role, and obviously for him to be playing as well as he is. I think that is kind of a follow my lead type of guy, which allows Illinois to be in good positions and not get yourself where Colgate's a team that if you let them jump out early, if you have to chase them or they're neck and neck and they got confidence and you let some guys get going, that's a squad that can pull an upset on you. So I think, especially as you start to forecast forward, like you're a better team than Missouri. To come out with the intensity and execute, you should win that game. I know that game's been a tough one for Illinois in recent years, but even just going into the Big Ten, where Illinois is going to be better than the team they line up against most nights, and if they have that same type of intensity and just the mental focus and not to have the highs and lows emotionally that they had last season, it'll allow them to be a consistent team and take care of business as they should.
Derek, after this game, we're sitting there going, like, who's my star of the game? Like, you have 4 guys score 14 plus points. Coleman Hawkins, 16 and 7 on 6 of 14 shooting. Quincy Guerrier, we'll talk about him here in a second, 15 points on 4 of 6 shooting with 7 boards. Marcus Domask, 15 points, closed the game extremely well, 7 points in the last 3.5 minutes. And then Terrence Shannon, 14 points with those 5 blocks. But I went with Shannon just because that first half, he set the tone. All of his points came in that half. He had 3 blocks, which are tied a career high for him, including that ridiculous, I call it the Terrence Shannon now, I guess, but it's the LeBron chase down blocks. We've talked about it before. It's weird to put him in that category, but that's what he does. His physicality at this level is like LeBron, that athleticism at this level. It's insane what he's able to do. And sometimes I just want to pull back and be like, we got to talk about how good this guy is every time. The second half, he didn't score. There were some lapses, some turnovers there. So you want to fix that a little bit. But I don't worry about him. But he set the tone, man. And defensively, he just completely shut down Braden Smith, who I know in your scouting report, like, this is the guy you need to slow down. One of the top assist rates in the country, averages 14 points. Braden Smith had 2 points on 1 of 7 shooting, 4 assists, 2 turnovers. He basically took him out of the game, and he was locking him up for almost the entire 38 minutes he was on the court. So yes, Terrence Shannon should do that to Braden Smith, but he did it. That's he's just continues to play at an All-American level, even if it was only for 1 half tonight.
Yeah, and it's that buy-in defensively where I don't think we had that on a night-to-night basis last year, where, I mean, he's been one of the most athletic guys in the Big Ten, maybe even in the country. And for him to grade out like he did at the NBA Combine, obviously we know his north and south is as good as anybody. Get him in the open floor offensively, and that's going to be something that's just it's traumatizing for anybody to try to stop that, especially when you're kind of in that mid to low major where you don't have the athletes to match up with that. But yeah, defensively, when you think about 6'6", think about 220, 225, and he's lateral. He's got an ability just with his long wingspan to be impactful too. And he's taking it personally this year. That his line that kind of makes you laugh is I don't like getting scored on. It makes me mad, is what he says. So he's definitely set that tone in that type of a sense. So I love it. I think that's great. When we saw it with Io, where he had stretches where he started to really, take it personal on some of those big time matchups defensively. And that just rubs off on everybody else, I feel like. So when he's doing that and yeah, I mean, as far as the offensive game, I saw D Brown tweet out, I don't know if you caught it as well during the game, and said, Terrence and Io are the most electric guys in transition that I've seen wearing an Illinois jersey. That was maybe a little bit of too much humble pie for D, because he's in that category too. But I mean,
I think I talked about this, and I think he'd be fine with it. Derek Burson, who's the Illinois spokesman, sports information director, I was asking about this. I'm like, do you have anybody who compares to him? Like, just physically, because you and I have talked about this. I just don't know covering a guy like he's a 3-inch taller Avante Rice. Like, that's the guy with the power, speed, athleticism. But Ray was 6'3", right? Like, Terrence is 6'6", looks like a NFL edge rusher out there. But he's saying, Io was the fastest in transition. Like, he was the best in transition, but Terrence is just a freight train, right? You got to get out of the way. And he had 6 straight points in transition there in the first half that just Illinois kind of pulled the game away. But he said D is probably the best at just getting out, right? Like you could get the ball to Darren, D's just running down the court and nobody could catch him. He's probably, as fast as anybody, but Io just being 6'3" like that. But you've had 2 guards in a row there for Brad Underwood. I mean, Brad Sturdy and I were talking before the game. I'm like, Illinois fans, they don't probably remember what it was like to not have an All-American, because Terrence is like the 3rd one in a row here for Brad Underwood. It's been a nice run. So I know you want more. I know you want the point guard. It's a good time for Illinois basketball. Like this, Andy Bernard asked, you wish you knew the good old days when you're in them. This feels like a good old day for Illinois, because they're an NCAA tournament team, Derek. I think they're going to be a top 6 seed. I thought Brad Underwood and Coleman Hawkins made a good point of it's like a 3-14 game, 4-13 game. I think they got the confidence that they're going to be that, and I think they'll be in the mix for that.
Yeah, I mean, there were a number of years we covered where you didn't even have a guy to put in the conversation of like first team All Big Ten, if not maybe second team. And now you got a guy, it seems like almost every year, like you're saying, that we talk, All American, right? Io, Kofi, and then now Terrence. So it's fun. It's fun watching him do what he does, and you give him a scene in the open court, and it's over. I thought Colgate did a better job in the second half of. They really seemed to like commit 2 guys to him defensively as soon as he got the ball in the open court, and like sent 2 guys at him and then made him give it up. But the damage was done for the most part there in that first half when he got all of his points, and some other guys picked up the slack there to close that thing out. But man, I know Jeff Goodman was in attendance, national guy, said I don't know there's a better fast break player in college basketball than Shannon, and maybe not a better wing in all of college basketball than Terrence Shannon. And right now the numbers support that. So just enjoy the ride with that dude for sure.
The 2 guys might be former teammates, Kevin McCullough and Terrence Shannon. Texas Tech fans going, what the heck has happened here? You've heard us talk about home field apparel since the start of the season. There are a lot of collegiate apparel brands out there, but we wanted to partner with Home Field because their designs are the best out there. Some of Illini Inquirer's favorites are the basketball ringer tee, the rose tee, and the 1980s long sleeve with the script Illini. It's great. Be sure to check out homefieldapparel.com, filter by Illinois, and see what we're talking about. And our listeners get an exclusive deal using code Illini23. Using that code Illini23 gets you 15% off your first order. We all know you're wearing Illini gear, so if you're in need of a refresh, we really think that you should check out Home Field Apparel, which has the best designs, and these shirts, guys, are really comfortable. Their designs are super unique, and a lot of thought goes into each concept. There's really nothing else on the market like what Home Field is doing. You can find them at homefieldapparel.com and use code Illini23 for 15% off your first order at homefieldapparel.com. Speaking of, teams are going to just try and stop Terrence Shannon because you have to send 2 guys at him. That means other people got to step up. We've seen Quincy Guerrier do that. Last 2 games, 36 points, 5 of 10 from 3 over those 2 games. That's been a huge sign. Then Marcus Domask got back to being Marcus Domask, really closed this game well, started 1 for 6 shooting, but he didn't really assert himself early on. Maybe didn't have to with Quincy doing it, with Terrence doing it, Ty creating for others. But I liked seeing that confidence late of using his big body, those post-ups, Derek. So I'll throw to you. What was more encouraging, Marcus Domask's 15 tonight or Quincy Guerrier with 15 on 4 of 6?
I think I'll go slight edge to Quincy. I like the momentum he's building. The guy that couldn't buy a 3 really for a handful of weeks there as he went on with the wrist, and you wondered, at what point is he going to get back to shooting the 3 as well as he did at Oregon last year? 35% in that range. He's really made nice strides over his career to be a reliable and someone that you got to respect from the outside as a catch and shoot guy. I love the fact that, and Brad, answered this when I asked him about it. You got to make the 3 to make the guys close out on you. But I love the fact that he can drive closeouts. Like if he's going to kick it, get the kick to the corner or on the wing, that if people try to, bear down on him and get a hand up, he's someone that I think an underrated part of Illinois' offense right now is he can drive into the lane and draw contact. And obviously, if you're not going to foul him, he can finish at the rim. And a guy that can play above the rim, too. He's had some big dunks so far this season as well. So not to discount Marcus. I don't worry a ton about Marcus. I know the Tennessee performance wasn't very pretty, and it was maybe a crash back down to earth a little bit. I think, as we've talked about, I think it's probably somewhere in between the consistency of, FAU and then Tennessee. I think he'll be in that 15. Some nights he'll definitely score 20. But I just think for Quincy to show that confidence, to really get this thing building, it just adds another layer to this offense, to where you have Terrence is the unquestioned A option. Marcus can be a guy that you throw the ball into on the mid post, and made a big three late to really kind of pull away as well. And if Quincy's going to be that next option, Illinois is just that much harder to deal with. So I love what he's done the last 2 games.
Can we talk about a good Coleman Hawkins game? Is that allowed here, Derek? Every game that he's been back, 6 against Rutgers, 9 against FAU, 12 against Tennessee. I know he had 4-13 shooting after a 4 of 9 start, but 16 points, 6 of 14 shooting. It's his first game since coming back, shooting over 40%, made 2 of 6 from 3, took some good in rhythm ones tonight, 7 rebounds, 2 steals, did have 4 turnovers. Illinois got sloppy there in the second half, but I love what he's bringing. I love what Coleman Hawkins is doing. Like some of these mid-range things that he did. He had some really good passes to his teammates. And I thought he battled defensively against Jeff Big Country Woodward, one of my favorite players we've seen so far this year. He's crafty. I like it. It's like the Marcus Domask. But yeah, he's playing really well. And his emergence, like Terrence is starting to get help. That's what I'm very encouraged by. Since Hawkins has come back, Quincy with the back-to-back games, Domask since, Rutgers, finally getting the supporting cast around Terrence Shannon. And those are 3 seniors that I think you can count on every night. So that's been really encouraging. We talk about Coleman's impact all the time, but him scoring too, that's going to be really important. So to get 12 at Tennessee, 16 in this game against a mid-major, I think is really encouraging.
Yeah, that's huge to have a number of guys that you can kind of rely on to chip in. And even if Terrence is going to have an off night, to have a chance to still be able to get done. And really in that first half against Tennessee, it was a good example of what Quincy and Coleman were doing to put you in a position just, to have a lead, even though Terrence and Marcus were struggling that much. But I think Coleman has found a little bit, obviously more of a rhythm offensively. I think he is taking better threes. I thought he was composed tonight for the most part in terms of taking them in rhythm. And I think it was Ty in that free throw line extended at one point. Maybe it was Luke where he kind of there. Colgate goes zone. Coleman has it at the top of the key, throws it in, gets it pitched back, realizes that he's open and just in rhythm pops that with confidence and makes it. So that's a great play. That's obviously something that makes him being a stretch big really maximizes what you can do offensively when he's making that shot. So he's also a guy that, yeah, as you mentioned, can make good passes, has a nice no look on the baseline. I think to Ty at some point in that first half. And then defensively, I mean, you take it for granted at this point. I feel like just the amount of deflections he gets, just positioning that he does well. I mean, Woodward's got a lot of weight on him, but I felt like he was doing a pretty good job of contesting on those matchups too. And I mean, Keegan Record was a guy that, he's preseason player of the year in the Patriot League. I know Coleman drew that assignment early and he didn't do a whole lot. I think he had maybe 9 points, or he was definitely in single digits as far as his scoring, and Coleman had something to do with that as well. So that's important. And I think that, yeah, Coleman's going to have any game you can draw a couple of plays where it's like, okay, you wish you had that one back. But I mean, come on. I mean, Terrence has that too. I just think
Terrence is going to have those turnovers. Like if you have the ball that much, you're going to have that many turnovers, and Coleman's going to have those. I think the upside of it is, his positives will far outweigh the negatives that bother people for the most part. Now there can be games where the negatives do, but for the most, like, they are so much better when he's on the court. But I do want to mention, Derek, Dane Danger gave good minutes tonight. And again, it comes against a mid-major. That's where you kind of qualify. But 5 points, 8 rebounds in 14 minutes. And Brad did play Dane and Coleman together for a couple minutes. He said after the Tennessee game he wanted to do that. The biggest number for Danger might be 1 turnover in 14 minutes, but the rebounds were really encouraging to me. He got after it, especially in the offensive glass, had 3 offensive rebounds. Illinois really did a nice job on second chance points here, but are you buying, are we going to see more of that? Do you think Hawkins Danger can actually be on the court together for extended minutes? Is that something Illinois will want to do? And just what do you see for Danger moving forward?
I think they can do it given the matchup. Like Indiana obviously plays big, so you could do that for sure in that type of a matchup. I think in general, if you're thinking offensively, a big part of trying to exploit matchups is the unique matchup that is Coleman at the 5 because he can space the floor. Although, I mean, there's no doubt that Dane on the block when he's playing his best is a nice ability to go in and get the ball close to the rim, and he can score it in there, and has been the guy that obviously go left hand, right hand. Does need to settle down a little bit more. I thought today he was more composed. He actually passed it out at times. Like that was, I think, a step forward instead of trying to do too much and try to force the issue. Or had a couple of times where things crashed down on him and he kicked it back out. And and then I just love his rebounding energy. I think it's something that's going to get him on the court. Those second chance putbacks and whatnot. So I thought his minutes were good. I do think it's something that Illinois can do. Brad did mention, last year their offensive numbers weren't very good in those matchups. Well, it's because I think twofold. Dane's presence around the basket kind of hurts Terrence Shannon's ability to get the rim at times. It kind of clogs things up. And then also Coleman has to shoot the 3 at a decent level to really make that pairing work. If Coleman's going to be, as he was last year, sub 30% 3-point guy, that allows teams to kind of cheat inside, and that hurts Dane, and then you kind of get that mashup as well. So,
and Quincy's just better. Like
Quincy's
just
playing
like,
really well.
when you got Quincy and Coleman playing like they are, it's going to be a spot roll for Dane Danger. But if he brings that rebound intensity and just is smart with the basketball, doesn't over dribble, I think he'll be all right. We should shout out Ty Rodgers too. One of the better games of the year. Brad Underwood said it was his best game of the year. 4 points, 5 assists, 8 rebounds, 1 turnover. Obviously, Colgate's guards didn't do anything, part because of Shannon. Rodgers struggled a little bit defensively in the second half as they made their run. I do like he didn't make enough at the rim, but I did like his assertiveness in seeking out shots. Like, I don't mind 5 shots a game from Ty Rodgers if they're around the rim. Didn't get a couple of them to go, but he looked comfortable. Brad Underwood said before the game, told you guys he's settling in. That was a nice performance. I just like to continue to get him more confidence and in taking those attempts at the rim and not passing them up. I mean, we've seen the Ben Simmons thing with him early in the year where he's passing up open layups. Go for it. If you miss it, oh well, but I'll take some of those growing pains with him, because if he can give you 4 to 7 points, a night, that's just huge for this team because he does everything else well.
Just make defenses think about you. I don't know that Tennessee really had to all that much. Didn't attempt a field goal in that game. Only had 1 field goal attempt against FAU. So, I liked his aggressiveness. I mentioned earlier, like his ability off the bounce. He had a nice driving kick to Quincy. He had hit Coleman on a pick and roll. I do think it's worth noting. I think Brad made a good point about, if Coleman could kind of mix up what he does off the ball screen. Sometimes he dives, sometimes he pops. That's a good thing as well. And it seemed like, it wasn't just lip service by Brad to say, hey, I'm getting more comfortable with Ty, because the ball was in Ty's hands early in that game. They were running some stuff through him. So I'd like to see that. He'll make some of those attempts at the rim. Like his up and under was a really nice athletic move. He was just a little short on the finish. This is a guy that is a good athlete. He's strong. He's actually, quietly, I know the sample size probably isn't that big right now, but has shot the free throw a little bit better here of late, I think. So I don't have a problem him being aggressive around the basket. I think there's still some times there was a moment or two in the second half. I feel like he gets it 5 feet within the basket and looks to pass out a little bit, maybe too soon. But it's a progression. I think sometimes based on him, being forced into this starting point guard role, obviously the expectation level is elevated, but he's still just a sophomore, early in this season and playing a new position. So this could potentially, I know that the opponent wasn't a high major by any means, but could be a growth point for him of being someone that can run a little bit more offense through, be a little bit more aggressive. And then we know defensively, I think late in the game, he was getting beat off the dribble and Brad was getting into him a little bit, but on the whole, I mean, he's had a great start to this year defensively. He's defended really well on the perimeter. And when he's rebounding like he was today, tied his career high with 8 rebounds. You'll take that all day long from him.
Yeah. You mentioned free throws. That brings us to this point. First 7 games, Derek, this team was shooting 57% from the free throw line. Last 3 games, 62 of 70. That's 89%. It's partly Domask getting there a lot, Shannon getting there a lot, but Danger goes 1 for 2. Quincy's starting to make his free throws. Ty, as you said, starting to make his free throws. That's really encouraging for this team that's going to be in a lot of close games. And even against Tennessee and, Florida Atlantic, they made free throws. So they were always giving themselves a chance there. They need to, because this team can get a lot of free throws. And if Danger's making 50% or more, Ty Rodgers is making 50% or more, you have no concerns about Shannon, Domask. I would throw Coleman Hawkins in there, Justin Harmon. Those guys are going to make free. Goody. Yeah. Probably not going to get there much, but yeah, see, he's battling on the boards. At least that gives him a chance. So that's encouraging, because that's a huge weak point of this team. And they have shot the three here better here recently. I think 4 straight games over 33%. So that's encouraging too.
Yeah, and they responded to the Twitter mob that says, "Hey, they don't practice free throws. Why don't they do that? That would be a novel idea."
Obviously, just practicing them a lot more during these longer weeks. There,
apparently, and they're even showing you, if you watch the media availability videos that we post. I think the sound guys, like, if you want good audio quality on the videos, or especially we replay that stuff on the radio, and you hear all the bouncing balls. It's not ideal, but you had like the whole team shooting free throws after practice the other day when we were in there. So it does happen. They do practice free throws, and now you have now you have the results to back that thing up. So I mean, that's good for sure. I mean, close games is what you tend to associate with Big Ten play, maybe even bragging rights. Even though I know you'd like to be in a more comfortable lead down the stretch against a team that, on paper you're better than, but that's key to being able to make those closing time moments a little more sweat free, especially if you got the lead and teams are going to foul you. But that's been an encouraging point here recently.
Sorry, 4 of the last 5 games, they've shot 35% from 3 or better. They shot only 25% against Tennessee when they jacked all those up. All right, Derek, bragging rights. John Gross is really good at this. Brad Underwood has not been. Brad Underwood has been a big improvement for this program, obviously, but this is the one game he has struggled with. And for a lot of it, it just seems like Missouri's been more up for this game, because Illinois often has the better team. The one year they won was Kofi's last year. Alfonso Plummer, I believe, went off. Trent Frazier's had some good games there, but they've lost 4 of 5 to Missouri. And Missouri they're certainly a Power 6 team with some talents, but they lost some good talent from last year that really hurt Illinois. So big game, Derek, because if you wrap this one up with Fairleigh Dickinson after that, you feel like you had a pretty good non-conference here with a marquee win over Florida Atlantic. No big missteps. Your 2 losses are at home to a Marquette team we think can make the Final Four, a Tennessee team that potentially can make a Final Four, both those top 10 KenPom teams. Wrap this up with a good win over Missouri, but you got to bring it, Derek. So we know you can actually throw out the records in this one. The last 5 years have proven that.
For whatever reason, Missouri's taking it personally. Illinois, not as much. I know that with the roster turnover, guys like Terrence Shannon, Coleman Hawkins, that was not only a loss to Missouri last year, that might have been the most embarrassing Illinois defeat as far as I can remember. They were down like 36 at one point, weren't they? It might have set the record for the largest loss Illinois had in a bragging rights. So that's something they should probably be thinking about. And then also, you get Quincy, you get Justin, you get Marcus. Probably, obviously don't have the familiarity with it. Maybe Brad just needs to go to his strategy pre-Rutgers, where he just goes with the tough practices. Because Harmon had a good line about the Rutgers lead up. He's like, we just needed to take it out on somebody. We were so mad that we got ran like that, and those practices were so tough that we had to take it out on the opponent. So maybe that's the key there. But again, kind of in line with today, I do expect this team to handle it more maturely, to prepare, it just seemed more trustworthy than last year's team, and obviously some others out there. Missouri, they came away with a win at Minnesota, but they were down by like 20 in that game. They shouldn't be in Illinois' league, at least in terms of on paper. But
yeah, so they've played, let's see, 6 top 100 KenPom teams. They lost at home to Memphis by 15 points. They beat Minnesota on the road. They beat Pittsburgh on the road, 71-64. Lost on the road to Kansas, and then they lost a semi-home game to Seton Hall today, 93-87. Also lost to Jackson State at home. Beat Wichita State at home. But still, yeah, this is not as Kobe Brown's gone, right? Was it Nick
Hodge, another guy that hurt Illinois, transfer from Cleveland State? Yep.
Yeah, so Sean East and Nick Honor and Noah Carter have been their three big players this year. So, I mean, it's going to be a better test than certainly you got against Colgate, Derek, but Illinois had bigger tests, but you have more talent. You have the better team. Go show it. And this is where I think Terrence Shannon is so important. He's a guy who should be embarrassed about last year's game, needs to bring that leadership, needs to bring that assertiveness right from the tip.
Yeah, and we saw, I know Terrence's career at Illinois is not going to be as long, 2 years versus Io's 3. Io never won in a bragging rights. I don't know that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty disappointing for him knowing how all the accolades that he got, but never got to touch the bragging rights trophy. And I would imagine that Terrence wants to make sure that he gets his hands on that, at least, especially after
the biggest trophy you can win in college.
I know, right?
Like literally.
Yeah. That thing's huge, but yeah, it really does just come down to intensity. Obviously, you got to be able to execute, and Missouri's going to have some athletes, and they're going to, they can play a high scoring game, but Illinois' defense should be able to make things tough on them. And if they get, especially some of these other guys, Marcus has played well outside of Tennessee, but he's really seemed like a guy that has more of a solidified role offensively. Quincy's coming on nicely. Coleman's playing well. That's a nice supporting cast around Terrence to where I feel like Illinois is clicking well enough that they should feel good going into this game. But whatever it is, yeah, you just got to have a little bit of a fire under you because Missouri's found a way to do it, whatever the secret sauce is there.
Is the Big Ten back, Derek, after this weekend?
They just needed me to dog on them in a column. And, yeah, they apparently didn't like that. But it was a good weekend for the Big Ten. And I think I said it, I think Illinois fans, I get, being happy that Indiana didn't come away with that one against Kansas, but it's good for the Illini as far as the resume chances that some of these guys around the conference can pick things up. Michigan State just blasting Baylor was huge. Obviously, Ohio State beating UCLA.
Another team, they're not going to be a quad one win at home, but another team that's kind of playing well is Nebraska.
Yeah, they won K-State.
Beat Michigan State and K-State. So, they're starting to put together a little bit better resume. You wish you had them on the road so it could potentially be a quad one, but that's big for Ohio State to beat UCLA, for Michigan State to perform like they did against Baylor. That's the Michigan State team I think everyone kind of expected. Even Indiana, man, that was a great game against Kansas. For them, though, it feels like, man, if Illinois had found a way to lose to Florida Atlantic, because you don't know if you're going to get a game like that again from Trey Galloway, and Mbakwe was awesome. So that one stings for them in their resume because it could be the difference of seed lines or getting in the tournament. But they looked good, at least. Khalil Ware is legit. He's living up to his talent and the hype. And they're a team that's going to be difficult. And you just hope for Illinois, the opportunities you have against some of these teams, you take advantage of, and you're able to beat some of them because these are some of your quad one potentially opportunities. But Purdue, if you get a win against Purdue, that is a marquee game because, man, nobody is as impressive as that. I know they lost Northwestern in overtime, but that team has beaten Gonzaga, Tennessee, Marquette, Alabama, Arizona. That is 5 top 20 KenPom teams already.
They look really, really good. I mean, last year it was kind of the ongoing, okay, we know they're going to win the Big Ten, but are they built for March? Are they going to go deep? Or are they the quote-unquote top team in the country? Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer both. I'll throw both those guys in the same category. Freshmen that are now sophomores definitely look like they've taken the step forward, more trustworthy. Lance Jones, transfer from SIU, has added a nice boost to them as well. And Edey's just he's a monster. So that looks like a team that, Final Four or whatnot. I mean, they're a machine. And the great thing is you get 2 cracks at them.
Well, that's great. You want to play Purdue twice this year, right? It helps your strength of schedule, helps your net. But yeah, if you can win one of those, I mean, the final stretch for Illinois, I can't wait for that. At Iowa, Purdue, and at Wisconsin, Purdue, and then at Iowa. Yeah, that's going to be a great 3-game stretch where Illinois can really add to its resume potentially.
100%. Yeah, Wisconsin's looked pretty good so far. They weren't in that group that we were kind of wanting more from. They've had a really nice start to their season. So that's a chance that as you roll into postseason play, a chance to really kind of, we'll see if Illinois is in that Big Ten title chase, how that looks. Purdue does already have a loss on their resume. Illinois with a nice start, and then get Northwestern early, and then at Purdue. they have a chance to really make that interesting if they can win at Mackey. I know that's a really, really tough ask, but just the
That'd be among the best wins in the country if you can get that on January 5th.
It would be. It definitely would be. I know, Johnny Davis and company a couple of years ago when he was a bona fide All-American, whatnot. We're able to go in there and get one. Can Terrence Shannon, as a guy that's playing like that, be able to do it? But yeah, it'll be extremely fun to finish that thing out. And look, just to kind of circle back, you get Michigan State twice, so it's good that they're up to 23 in Ken Palm. They jump like 10 spots. A team that can right the ship a little bit. That'd be good in terms of your opportunities against them. So it'll be one heck of a finish, and then obviously go into Big Ten tournament play and whatnot. But you got to kind of circle it back. Illinois, where they're at right now, they look like a team that's going to be a contender, a team that's going to have a chance for a decent seed in March. And the way they're playing right now, I'd be pretty encouraged.
Yeah, win bragging rights. You feel good for the holidays. You feel good going into the new year. Got to apologize. We didn't do this podcast right away because Derek and I were ready to celebrate a Bears win, and then that did not happen. Derek, what happened?
That hurt so bad. That pained me.
I mean, Robert Tonyan, this is why we don't take the Packers trash.
Luke Getsy is part of the Packers trash. I want to put that out there.
I don't know. You just lose out now, right, Derek? You and I are rooting for a new coaching staff. Derek's team, Justin Fields. I'm team. I want Justin Fields to be great, but probably if we get the number one pick. But the Panthers even won today, so what a crappy day.
Yeah, what's up with that? I thought we were just gonna enjoy Joey Wagner and just
his pain. We were celebrating his Packers pain, and then we joined him just about 20 minutes later. So that's on.
Yeah. Baker Mayfield throwing for 4 touchdowns, having a perfect QB rating, and Joey was wearing it very visibly. And then we got our own dose of, what we've been getting pretty much our whole lives.
We expected it. We expected that to happen when it was 17-10. And how do we find a way to lose this? Joey just is not used to these things. He's not used to being completely mediocre and without a ton of hope. So, I guess at least he's there with us right now, but he's still looking down at us in the standings. So we got to figure that out at some point.
It's true. I've been telling him that, his team's going to take a loss week 18 in Lambeau, but maybe we should just lose out. I'm with you now.
We are 5-11. Derek, are you rooting for the win against the Packers?
Yeah, probably not. I don't know. You know me, like you said, I'm team Justin Fields. I might want him in his final game in a Bears uniform at that point to ball out and allow me to remember the good times at the very end. I'm not conceding. I'm not saying it's over.
Yeah.
But yeah, today stinks for sure.
I'm with you, Derek. Justin Fields is him and Jay Cutler are the two most talented quarterbacks I've seen in a Bears uniform. But when you get the chance at the number one pick, so Derek is full team Fields. I want Fields. It'd be great if he could do it. Could he succeed with Marvin Harrison and all that talent around him? I think he's a starting quarterback in the NFL. But if you do think Caleb Williams is that level or Drake May's next level, you probably got to take a chance in the cap, all that stuff. But it's a fascinating time to be a Bears fan because there is hope. But there's also just we should be better. We should be better. And that's on the coaching staff. 2-7 start should not have happened. And finding ways to lose games like this should not happen.
The Broncos game, the Lions game in Detroit, this game, all big leads in the fourth quarter, and we blew them. So the silver lining is, maybe this is going to make sure that Eberflus is gone and that Getsy should be gone regardless of who's the head coach. And
if we don't have a new coaching staff, what's the point of drafting a new quarterback? That's true.
That's true. We just need the Panthers get right. Today had to feel good, but the Patriots, they lost today, so they're coming for you. So help us out. Help a brother out.
We'll get a top 2 pick regardless, and that's pretty good. That's good. True. Better than picking the Colts because Gardner Minshew is doing great things. So at least Ryan Poles did that right. That's your Bears couple minutes from Derek Piper and Jeremy Werner. Piper, thank you as always, man. I'll see you at Braggin' Rights.
Sounds good. Always fun.